For more on all of this, I'm joined by Kevin Frey, Washington correspondent for New York One, along with New York Times reporter Alexandra Berzon. Thank you so much for both of you being in today. Welcome in. Kevin, let's begin with you. Now, you spoke with GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik about this. She said, quote, "This is going to play itself out." How are conversations playing out between local and national Republican leaders? And really, how can the likes of Stefanik and McCarthy just stand back and hope it all goes away?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different dynamics here at play. One, when it comes to New York's Republican fortunes, this last midterm was a very good year for them. And so they were able to flip several seats, including several of the rank and file Republicans within Congress, many of those new freshmen that are calling for him to resign. But you see Elise Stefanik wanting to let it play out, wanting to see how this all proceeds, and basically telling me that, look, he was a duly elected congressman. That's similar to what we're hearing from Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, as well. And so there's also the dynamic of math. New York helped push Republicans, give them a little bit of a buffer when it comes to how big their majority is, which is already very, very slim. We've seen how difficult it was for McCarthy to even become speaker. So if he were to encourage him to resign, for example, that would also set up the possibility that that district could flip back to blue, because it is actually a favor Biden district by about 8 percentage points back in 2020. Obviously, that district didn't exist, but if you compare the maps compared to then to now. So there is the risk that they would lose yet another seat and would make the margins even slimmer.
Let's talk, Kevin, something that you mentioned was the electoral map and that district that could easily, well, I shouldn't say easily, because that's really my question here, is if Santos is out, there's a special election that Governor Kathy Hochul would have to call. How easily would it be able to be picked back up by Democrats, that seat?
Well, as I mentioned before, I mean, the district is 8+ for Biden back in 2020. Now, obviously, it swung pretty dramatically, as we saw in some of the other districts around New York City, for example, after the midterms. And so it's not a shoo-in for the Democrats, but it certainly isn't a shoo-in for the Republicans either. And you've seen, of course, the Nassau Republican establishment, electeds there, the leader there, trying to, well, they've called on Santos to resign, seemingly trying to move themselves and separate themselves from him as much as possible. And this could all be a hypothetical if Santos ultimately does not resign. And as he has said multiple times, he sticks around, even though some of his colleagues on Capitol Hill that I've talked to are calling him an embarrassment. They don't understand how he's going to be able to get anything done because of all of these allegations against him.
I have a feeling this will not be the last that we hear from the updates coming out of the Santos camp. Kevin Frey and Alexandra Berzon for us this afternoon. Thanks to both of you for this conversation.